Hello, I'm Harrison Ward, also known as Fellow Foodie. In this Saga recipe video, we're going to be cooking up a shepherd's pie to go in a Primus Preppen food flask. What you'll need for this recipe is around 350 of fresh butchered lamb mince. Again, we're blessed in this area in Cumbria with this sort of thing, but again, you'll find some fantastic lamb mince at a butcher's near you too. We've got some celery there, some carrots and some onion. We're going to create that base for this dish, that flavour profile in the pan. We've got some mint sauce to go through this as well, because mint and lamb work really well together. Some rosemary as well for similar reasons. We've got a little bit of tomato puree, not too much, not taking this too far away from traditional shepherd's pie, but a little bit in there to add a little bit of a different addition to the flavour profile. And for the mashed potato, we've got 5 medium-sized potatoes in there, some semi-skim milk and some butter. There'll be a little splash of Liam Perrin's Worcestershire sauce going through this and some stock. We'll get this in the oven to reduce down to really build that flavour in play. Let's get started on the dish. Okay, first things first, we'll get this lamb mince into a nice hot pan to brown off in this pan before we start chopping the veggies up. So we'll get this lamb mince straight in. Nice sizzle, no oil in there at all because the lamb mince is quite fatty. We're wanting this to brown as well, so break it up slightly in the pan, but otherwise leave to get that nice little charred edge on. It's all going to be flavour in there that's going to add to this dish as we go. And whilst that's on, we're going to knock up a onion, top and tail this onion. I'm looking for a fairly fine dice on this. We're trying to get the carrot and the celery out there nicely chopped through so they cook through quite evenly, quite quickly with this dish, whilst also building that sort of flavour blanket to put that lamb mince back onto once we take it out of the pan after browning. Okay, a nice bit of colour on that lamb mince already, so let's give this a quick mix through. Break that up a bit as well. Some lovely smells coming already from this pan. Nicely broken up there. Again, if you can't find lamb mince at the butcher's, again, just ask at the counter, they'll happily mince them up for you. And we'll go with a bit of seasoning there as well, so a bit of salt and pepper. Now with the celery as well. Top and tail those bits. Discard those. You could save those for a stock as well. We aren't going to use a stock through this. You could make that up with some of the excess from these. We'll just half these up a bit. So you're looking for sort of equal amounts really of the onion, celery and carrot. Okay, that celery is all done now. So we'll get these carrots peeled and chopped up a similar size before we're ready to take the lamb out of the pan into a separate plate. Make sure we don't contaminate that one with the raw mince we had in the previous one. And then we'll go in with these veggies and start to sweat these down so they're nice and softened. Okay, on top of the carrots then. So we'll get a nice flat edge so they don't roll around on the board too much. Trim these down. So we've got a nice, quite square, sort of oblong shape to play with there, so we can get a nice cube in on this carrot. Again, you could chop up the excess bits here, or again, save them for that stock, and then cut across as well. So some nice charred and brown on the lamb mince now then. I'm just going to wash this spatula because it's been in the raw mince. And we're going to take out that lamb mince now into a casserole dish that we'll use in a bit for reducing this down in the oven. Same pan then, a little bit of oil, so we're going to go in with a rapeseed oil into here again. Locally grown in this area of Cumbria, but again you could use a vegetable oil on here too. Probably not an olive oil in here again, wanting something that's a bit more neutral in flavour and of course with that higher smoke point again. But in that same pan, we've not washed that out, keeping all that flavour in there, building it up and straight in with all the onion, celery and carrots. I'll probably knock this down a little bit as well. It's on quite a high heat for the browning before, but more of a gentle heat for these veg. We're not wanting too much colour on here. Just a slow sweat down. Mix this through in the pan then. Again, there's always a great flavour base, this sort of mirepoix they call it. For the celery, carrot, onion, again a great base for sort of nice sort of Italian bolognese stews. A lot of French dishes, again a basic stock, but also this shepherd's pie as well. Again, those that maybe don't like the greenery too much, the celery can be chopped up really small or even not used at all really in this dish, but again, it won't be a strong flavour coming through, just adds to that flavour palette and profile of this shepherd's pie. We'll go over a bit more of our seasoning as well, a bit more of that salt and pepper. And we'll just cook this out for around 4 to 5 minutes for it to soften out. Again, so those carrots start to soften. They'll continue to soften as we cook this dish and as we bake it in the oven for a bit as well to reduce some of that liquid. Got that veg just started to sweat down quite nicely now then, so we're going to go with a little bit of tomato puree. Not too much for the purists, but a little bit in there just adds with this flavour as well. And important to cook out that tomato puree where you can as well. So a little bit of a separate element in the dish. In the pan rather, and we'll cook out that puree slightly before we mix that through with the veg and bring that lamb mince back through this in just a second. All starting to cook up quite nicely now, so we're going to go back in with this cooked lamb mince into those vegetables. And we're going to bring this together with a bit of mint sauce to stir through this as well. That lamb and mint combination working really well. I'm going to go with some veg stock in there as well. Start to build up our base sauce. Again, for a bit more flavour in here, again, you could use a meat-based stock in there. Again, a lamb stock obviously would be ideal. Bit of red wine, this as well would work really nicely. It's going to reduce down when we go into the casserole dish in the oven as well, so the flavours really start to intensify. So we brought that together now. We're going to go with a bit of Lea & Perrins in the end as well, Worcestershire sauce through there, and that lovely sort of umami flavourings, lovely savoury notes to this. Plenty for me. Again, if you're not too much of a fan, then go a bit more gentle. And now it's been brought to a nice simmer, all sort of come together, we sort of cooked through, that veg has really started to soften, even the carrots. We're going to transfer this through now into a casserole dish for this to go into the oven. So again, so at this point, normally I guess you'd probably go in with your sort of mashed potato on the top, mark this out to bake it in the oven, but because we're going to put this in the food flask afterwards, we're going to do this separately. So we're going to cook this in the oven first, let that reduce down further. A couple of sprigs of rosemary in there as well. Really going to add into that flavour base. And again, you can use a casserole dish with a ceramic lid, or again, just some tin foil over the top of this as well, just to trap in a bit of that moisture as it's cooking. And into the oven. So we've got the oven set at 180 degrees. We're going to go in there for again around sort of 40 minutes to an hour to reduce down further until that flavour's really out there before we start making the mashed potato to go on the top. Right, now whilst that mince is in the oven, cooking off, 40 minutes to about an hour, we're going to make a start on the mashed potato in here. So 5 medium-sized potatoes. I've got a pan on the heat already, boiling up there, some boiling water for it to go into. And again, we're going to get these peeled off, ready to slice into fairly sort of medium to small chunks in there to cook through. So we get these 5 potatoes peeled. I think like most sort of self-taught home cooks, this is where I sort of started my culinary path. I was peeling the spuds over the sink from my grandma. Some jobs you've got to go back to every now and again. And get these sliced up nice then. So we're looking for sort of medium sized cut in here. So again, some larger slices we'll chop in half. Just wanting it to cook through quite evenly, so evenly sized pieces. Okay, and into that sort of boiling water then, nice generous pinch of salt into there, and in with these potatoes as well then. So try not to drop them from a height because that water will splash on you, so get quite close without burning your fingers. And these potatoes into that water to boil off until nice and softened. Okay, so the potatoes all cooked through now, they're about 12 to 14 minutes there boiling up. We'll just drain these off into a colander. And while they're nice and hot, there's a little steam on the side there. We're just going to heat up some butter and some milk in this pan. So again, warm the butter through, where to make this mash, again, lovely, smooth and velvety to go on the top of this shepherd's pie. You don't need much heat in there. Again, the residual heat's probably enough to melt that butter with that milk. So the butter and milk into the pan, warm that through, back in with the potatoes and mash that up, and we should be ready to pull out the mince from the oven then and start building that Food Flask shepherd's pie all together. Okay, so we're just finishing off that mash now, have a bit of a balloon whisk then to get this nice and smooth, get all that milk and butter incorporated once it's all mashed off. We're ready to pull that mince out the oven and get this built up to take on our adventures. Okay, let's get that mince out the oven then. Smelling good. That's reduced down lovely now. Nice bit of extra flavour in there. So we can get this all set up in the Food Flask and start building this shepherd's pie ready to go. We don't want to fill this flask too much because we want to make sure that mash can get in the top as well, so we can get the lid closed as well. But all that heat's going to be kept in fantastically. Brilliant with these wide top lids as well from these Primus Preppen flasks. Really easy to get things decanted in, easy to clean afterwards as well, and keep things really nice and hot. Okay, so the mince is in, mash on the top. And just make sure that covers all that mince as well. So it's like that traditional shepherd's pie that you'd expect to see. We even get some of those lovely fork marks on there as well. And for that little extra touch, maybe not always traditional, but a bit of cheddar cheese on this shepherd's pie. And again, to get that nice melted, crispy, crunchy bit on top, we're just going to go over a little blowtorch, melt that cheese on the top before we get that lid on and seal it. And here we are then, shepherd's pie in a Food Flask. Bet you didn't think that one could happen. Thank you from Saga, myself and Primus watching this video. Please do check out the recipe on the website for all the details on how to make it yourself.